Live from Chicago, it's Chris Sells His Soul.
Man,
I'm your host, Chris Bogue, and welcome to a special Friday edition. So, we don't normally do this on Friday, but this is a special episode. Please, everybody, welcome to Comedy School, and welcome my guest today. Give it up for Robert Jones. Robert.
hey, how's everybody doing?
Hey, please introduce yourself, and please let my audience know where they can find you.
Everywhere. LinkedIn, I'm the Commissioner of Content at Rev Partners and the Mayor of Inbound. So LinkedIn is where I frequent.
Excellent. Yeah, check out Robert. He works for Rev Partners. He puts creative content out there all the time. And my name is Chris Bogue. I am your host today. This is my show where I have conversations with cool people who will help you work creatively. And I am a content creator on LinkedIn too. So if you look up Chris Bogue on LinkedIn, you can ring my bell. That will help you follow me. I post new content all the time. And this is a very special episode today because what some people don't realize about me is that I am a sketch comedy director. And I coach content creators as well as sales teams. And I teach people to go make creative content on video. And I learned how to coach others and how to direct others in my years as a sketch comedy performer at Chicago's Second City. And it's always been a passion of mine to work with others, to collaborate with other creative minds, to write for other people and write for ensembles of people. And I'm here talking with Robert today because his company, Rev Partners, purchased a 90-day cohort coaching package from me. So they brought me in. I helped launch 8 individual creator channels, all focused on Rev Partners and the work they do with HubSpot. And Robert is one of their creators. I've actually known Robert for quite some time now. And yeah, this is all going to be an episode where we will take you behind the scenes of what it was like to work together, what it was like to create comedy together for LinkedIn, and what kind of impact that has had on our companies and our personal brands since putting ourselves out there. So we're going to get deep into the content creation and comedy processes today. But before we do, I want to hear from you in the audience. So anybody who is in the audience today, please go ahead and leave a comment. Robert and I do not know if you are here, if you don't leave a comment. So I see we've got Jared in there. We've got Cam. We've got Shadab. We've got Lori. We've got Christine. Welcome, everybody. Let us know where you are commenting from. And if you have any questions about comedy or coaching or any of the insane stuff we've been doing on LinkedIn, we've got a lot of hilarious clips we're going to be playing today. We're going to be going deep on what we've been doing behind the scenes. Oh, we've got Christine here from Hong Kong. We've got Elizabeth.
Toronto.
We've got Harriet from Toronto. This is going to be awesome. So, without further ado, let's just jump straight into it, and we're going to try to answer as many questions as we can by the end of today's episode.
I think you should start maybe. I know we might get into this, but the last time I was on here, I talked about how I answered how we met, but I haven't heard it from your perspective. Like, how did this start? And yes, I did just start interviewing you back instead. So if you wouldn't mind, I've never heard how we actually became aware of each other's story from your perspective, Chris.
Yeah, well, I guess I will take the audience through that then. So I just kind of built a brand out of nowhere 2.5 years ago. I've done some television work, some web series work. I've got a lot of friends who are very successful content creators. And sometime during the big switch to remote work during COVID, I just threw caution to the wind and I just built a business. I just started training sales teams to get on video. And then I started making video content, and I kind of accidentally fell back into sketch comedy after 3 years of not doing anything. I wasn't doing comedy. I wasn't doing anything on the internet. I wasn't doing live shows. And I started putting comedy out there. I started putting original content out there on LinkedIn, and I started growing a following. And one of those followings was a young whippersnapper named Robert Jones. So Robert just kind of started putting stuff out there too. And whenever I see somebody putting just stuff on LinkedIn that is different and entertaining, I like to reach out to them. So I was like, hey, Robert, this is really cool. And Robert told me, yeah, I'm just copying off of you. You were a fan of mine. Robert had said, like, hey, I saw you out there doing it, so I figured I should start doing it too. And I was like, hell yeah, this stuff is funny. Keep it going. And his star started rising. Robert started rising. And I decided, screw it. I'm going to have this guy on my live stream because I like to show people that short video content works. And if you go out there having more fun than your competitors, you're going to get more engagement than them. And if everybody sees you out there having fun, they're going to want to be in on that fun. So I invited Robert on my show, and I actually have a clip here queued up for our trailer. So Robert, you want to take a look at the clip the first time you appeared on the show?
Let's go ahead. Let's see it.
All right, Iggy, roll the tape.
Stay in there.
It's finally done. That terrible orange suit's finally gone. Right? Right?
It's done.
Well, Biscuit, here we are at the cemetery. Ready to do your tricks? All right, lay down. Good girl. Okay, Biscuit, lay down. All right, roll over. Roll over. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, now Biscuit, raise the dead. Raise the dead.
Dembella. Give me the power, I beg
Hey, let's talk about reducing your tech stack with HubSpot.
Oh, this is gonna scare the shit out of LinkedIn. Good girl. If you're not having fun on video, you are missing out on business opportunities. Robert Jones works at Rev Partners, but LinkedIn knows him as the mayor of Inbound. He's joining me for a conversation about how sales and marketing teams can get noticed by having fun on video.
Get out of here! Trying to meditate.
Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff we do. And yeah, after we did that, Robert continued doing his thing, and his company started noticing that what he was doing was working. And the more Robert was going out there and doing fun, engaging, unexpected things, the better it was for his company, Rev Partners. So then they brought me in. We did a 90-day program together. And now they've got a team of creators putting original content out there that's driving business, driving new pipeline, closing deals. So, Robert, why don't we go in? I skipped a step there. What the hell are you doing in that orange suit? And can you tell me a little bit about this character, the mayor of Inbound?
Yeah, it's a ongoing happy accident, I think. And Inbound last year was our first time to go to Inbound. There was the COVID pandemic and all that. So we've only been in business for coming up on 3 years now. So it was our first time for people to experience us, right? So I'm a HubSpot fanboy, love the system, love the product. Everybody on my team is better at it than I am. And I was going as the sales director at the time. So I wanted to deflect from that fact, like as much as possible, to not talk about all of the, I didn't want to stand out in that way as being somebody that did not know as much about HubSpot as everybody else. So thus the mayor of Inbound was born. I think one of the quotes as the rally speech before we went was go out there and be known. That's one of our values here, be known and be bombastic, right? It was like, this is their first experience and that's what we care about. So I don't know how to be more bombastic than that. And it's kind of just evolved and taken off from there. So that is how it started. It now has, taken on kind of a life of its own, which is fantastic. And it is kind of this persona that I've, really, people say lean into something. I've fully leaned over and fallen down into the Mayor of Inbound persona.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is something that people don't understand about comedy too, which is I was trained that comedy is a committee process. Comedy doesn't happen in a vacuum. All your favorite shows, all your favorite movies, that was a group of people working together, and even the stand-up comedians that you see, even when it's a solo stand-up up there, they are living in this world where they're constantly talking to other stand-ups. They're constantly working with other comedians. They're constantly honing their craft. And, nobody comes to Second City to learn how to be funny. I came from Second City. That's where John Belushi and Chris Farley and Tina Fey and Amy Poehler and Bob Odenkirk and a million others came from. None of them had to go to Second City to learn how to be funny. They were already funny.
All right.
What Second City taught me to do was, how do you walk into a room with absolutely nothing but a handful of other people and leave with a compelling show that has a beginning, middle, and an end that examines the world from your point of view. And I went through the writing program there. I wrote and directed shows there. And a lot of what they teach is just the opposite of what LinkedIn teaches, So I want to get a little bit more into the coaching relationship. What was it like once you started? Well, I guess, can you take me through the progression of when did this stop being something you were just kind of throwing out there when you felt like it? And when did this start becoming something that you started doing regularly because you saw some sort of professional benefit?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I've been doing it regularly since before I even came here. It was it's more of a hobby. There's a lot of parodies I've done and a lot of songs and a lot of, all that stuff. So it's a creative outlet that I've had as long as I can remember. At Rev Partners, it was more of kind of on the side, at first on weekends. There may or may not have been a directive early on, like, hey, go figure out LinkedIn, put content out there, advance in that spot. But specifically to when I started leaning into it more, I've always done that. It just now happens that I get compensated. So I don't ever feel like it's a job or it's hard, it is hard. Back up there. It doesn't feel like work to me. So yeah, the coaching from there. So now, I get to work with somebody that got me into this on LinkedIn. The coaching relationship was terrifying at first. Terrifying.
What?
Terrifying. Because one of the first things you did was, we're going to review the tape. We're going to review the tape. And I hated it. Even watching myself live is odd. Sometimes it's off-putting. So seeing stuff back to me, even somebody that does this all the time for video, is just like that feeling of vulnerability and judgment. And, you equated it to a football team, right? You're out there and now we're going to review and critique. It was single-handedly the best possible thing that could have happened for me, because I can now see, where mistakes are, where I could have improved, or the comedic timing or the script or the tone, anything there. I do that now all the time. So thank you, although I hated you at first for making me do that. There's been, the coaching relationship, as far as the points of advice that I'd never even considered, were the character bit, right? If you have an opinion, or if you want to say something, or especially now, make fun of something lightly or describe something, it doesn't have to be you, it can be a character, right? So I've kind of leaned into that more, even with the weekly stand-up. The host changes every time depending on the theme of the show. That was massively, massively helpful. And then your other bit of advice that really stuck with me was you don't need to, basically about being grounded. I think I'd come into a one-on-one and we were reviewing tape and you're like, look, this was awesome. It's fantastic. It might not happen next week because, that's kind of the game, but you need to be okay with that. So that really stuck with me as well. There's a ton of stuff that you did with lighting and camera work and all that was very valuable. But the things that I think you already subscribed to these ideas, so it didn't seem like it was really drilled into, but I found a ton of value in them. And again, now this is coming from somebody that, I have 100 plus videos on LinkedIn and stuff on YouTube and all that. Those two things were massively impactful.
Well, thank you. With the coaching, I try to do it from the standpoint of what helped me. And I'm a strength-based coach. So I like to focus in on like, what is it that is working and how can we give the audience more of that?
Right.
And I know when I started on my content journey, that's what I needed. It's easy for someone to point at a spreadsheet and say, you need to increase your engagement by X amount of percent. It's a much more empowering thing when someone is like, oh, this bit you've stumbled on here is really funny.
Right.
And here's why it's really funny. And maybe that's a point of view. Maybe that's like a tone. Like there's a lot of different reasons about why something is funny. And this is what I studied for a long time. It's very easy for people on LinkedIn to point out the cringe. And it's very easy for people to criticize and say what everybody else is doing wrong. I find oftentimes, especially in comedy, people will be like, that's great, but they can't really explain why, you know? And it is this tricky line to toe on LinkedIn because there are serious reasons why we're here. But the more you can lean into the fun of it, the better it's going to work for you. So I want to stumble upon a little game that Robert and Rev Partners has been playing that's been very successful for them, that we started early on. And I want anyone at the audience who's thinking about getting into comedy to think about this, because oftentimes when we focus on the jokes, when we focus on the laughs, people get overwhelmed trying to come up with the funniest thing possible. And I was always taught as an improviser to think about the game of the scene. You create a game, and your only job is to play the game as intelligently as you can and to heighten the game. And once you start thinking about it as a game, all of a sudden you realize you have infinite moves, and there's a number of different creative things you can do to escalate the game. So when I announced the partnership with Rev Partners, one of the first things we did was we just talked a lot of shit about Salesforce. So Salesforce, anybody who's in B2B SaaS knows what Salesforce is. They are a hugely successful CRM program, and they are HubSpot's direct competitors. So Rev Partners is a HubSpot agency. Salesforce is Goliath. I like to think of us as David, So when you're in a position like that, you can have lots of fun. And we did this very funny announcement where we all went around and everyone on the creator cohort team introduced themselves, but also took a shot at Salesforce. And it was great. We gathered a lot of attention. We kind of planted our flag in the ground of what we're about. And since then, Robert has made a game of playfully smack talking Salesforce. And let's just take a look at some of the successful creative ideas that you stumbled upon since discovering this game. So here's one that Robert made not too long ago.
Are you ready, LinkedIn?
Captain!
I can't hear you!
Captain!
Oh! Who's trapped in this system they don't want to use?
Salesforce admin!
Annoyed and forgotten, they leave bad reviews.
Salesforce admin!
If horrible data is something you love,
Salesforce admin!
then their 3-year contract will fit like a glove.
Salesforce admin!
Ready? Salesforce admin, Salesforce admin, Salesforce admin, Salesforce admin.
Switch to HubSpot already.
Jesus. Now,
Yeah.
now
Excuse
look,
me.
that's absolutely ridiculous, right? It's absolutely ridiculous. I see we've got one fan in the audience. Colt says boo. Here's the thing, though.
Shout out, Colt.
Yeah, shout out. We love you here. Now, the thing about this is like, that was obviously ridiculous, but there was a serious point, like at the heart of that, right? Like that is an argument you are making, the fundamental argument you're making in support of your company. And if Robert had just gone out there and made a text post saying like, hey, here's the issues that I have or that prospects have with Salesforce, it wouldn't have seen nearly as many eyes, right? So Robert, can you tell me a little bit about like, what was your thought process? How did you go about creating that piece of nonsense?
Yeah, I wish I knew. I do have kids, have 4 kids. So a lot of the stuff that I've done has been, lightning moments of inspiration that involves either watching a kids show or watching or finding a toy. I've done a lot of stuff like that, but it's relatable because it's something people get and they've been exposed to before. So that's part of the ideation part. Also, I mean, this is going to sound really weird, but I've said this before. It's almost like the Billy Madison effect, right? Like famous Adam Sandler movie. He says he drew a blue duck because he never saw a blue duck and wanted to see a blue duck, right? Like on LinkedIn, there's so much great content and great thought leadership, and Bogue, you call them the gurus, that it's that none of it's good. It doesn't stand out, and so that I have never seen before. I would seriously doubt if anybody has seen anything that bizarre on LinkedIn. Now there's some weird stuff on the internet everywhere, but being able to bridge the gap between understanding, right? Like even the reviews on there, I didn't write those. We pulled them from sites where people give Salesforce like 1 star, 0 stars. So I thought that was funny and important. And then it's playful, right? It's not a direct, hey, this, it's not trash talking directly or to like an R-rated level, right? It's playful. So that was kind of the tone. Some of those, smaller clips, I did one with Shrek. I've done several of those. They just, because I'm always in that like ideating creative space, some of these clips may take, as far as that's my voice on there, all that, but they don't take very long to get out and to execute. So there's also like a very important to me speed component of, if I had a 6-month, runway and budget and time to produce, which I don't, or if I had like, a full team of people and like unlimited space in a studio, which I don't, I could probably make something better. But for how quickly it was done, that was an important part of the process to me also.
Yeah, I will say here too. So I've noticed some questions about copyright. Parody is protected under copyright laws, right? That is something that you're allowed to do. If SpongeBob reaches out to Robert and tells him to take it down, he'll take it down. But the point is the playfulness, and I get this same thing too, where like I will make creative content out there and people will say, oh my gosh, how long did this take you to make? And I'm like, it actually didn't take that long. Like I had the idea in my head. It's more about just knowing that there are no rules. You can really go out there and be as creative as you want. People tell me all the time, they'll see stuff like what Robert is doing. They'll see stuff that what I'm doing. And they'll say, oh, I could never get away with that.
Right.
And I say, why not? Why not? The LinkedIn police isn't going to come arrest you for having fun, like, and yeah, the pop culture things you like, the TV shows, the movies. I do pop culture parodies all the time. I don't know if anyone noticed me and Robert's Halloween sketch, threw a little Chucky reference in there, that's fun. And that's memorable. That's what sticks out to people, So yeah, and let's take a look while you mention it. So you also did a Shrek parody too. So why don't we take a look at that? Iggy, do we have that clip?
Where is everybody? Hey, look at this!
Welcome to Love's Fun, it's a CRM. Here we got some rules, let me explain it. Service sales, CMS, marketing is the best. Love's Fun is a CRM. Teachers and town class don't agree, kiss what says. Love's Fun is a CRM.
Now, if that looks like pure lunacy to anyone at home, you're right. That is pure lunacy. That's also the best performing video you've ever had, right? So,
Yes.
tell me about that. Were you surprised to get such a huge reaction to something so silly?
Surprised is an odd term. Not as surprised by relieved. And because of the way that video came about, I was on a call with Casey Anderson from our team, and I was, I tell that our CEO that he has a window of truth. So when he's really thinking deeply, he stares off over here. Well, my window of truth is somewhere over here in the background. So I was looking at that, and I saw a toy on the ground, and it was a Shrek toy from my youngest, and I just had one of those. If you've done content or you've ideated ever, it doesn't have to be for this, but I just utilize it in a way that was like, I got to go. I got an idea. And so that, 20 minutes later, if you listen back to that, the way that the audio is set up, I actually recorded all the vocals and rewrote the words. And then I have an editor who's Igor. He's fantastic. Igor, you're the best ever. But I was like, we need to put a trap beat behind this, and we need to make it, give it a little stank. And so that came out like, 3 hours from ideation to like finished video. So it's not that it is time consuming, and it is, I've been reading the comments. It is hard to put yourself out there, but you have to start somewhere. And me having started and failed, hundreds of times on videos that don't get the engagement I want, which sometimes it's more surprising that videos don't perform well, Chris. And I know you probably can speak into that too, but you spend, hours, or you've got, collaboration with people, and you put a lot of effort into an idea, and it just, nothing happens. And you're like, well, that sucked. Just wasted a bunch of time. This idea was like, as soon as I had the idea and saw it, I was like, this is going to be something, right? Like everybody knows Shrek and all of that, especially the way that the audio was edited to sound exactly. I think I slacked Igor, was like, can you make me sound like a chipmunk? And I have a reason for asking. So that was all fun. It was quick. It was, probably the most, not important video, but the most successful one from like an engagement standpoint. And like, we use it as our Zoom waiting room video. So if you meet with us on, Red Partners team, and you're in the waiting room, that video plays. So I actually had a guy on LinkedIn, Sean, if you're out there, he messaged me earlier and was like, what is this? And he was in the waiting room, meeting with somebody on our team, and that video was playing. So we utilize that kind of stuff more than just one time on LinkedIn also.
Yeah. Well, so a couple things there. Yes, I firmly believe that like you cannot only focus on the engagement metrics. There's a lot of reasons why something performs or doesn't perform. This is why I think it's important to collaborate with others and to create with others. And a lot of the work that I was doing with Rev Partners, and a lot of the work that I do coaching content creators, one thing that people will tell me all the time is they're like, oh, I've got like 20 different ideas. I've got 20 different ideas. I've got a friend who's going to help me with this. I'm trying to get a better camera. I'm trying to mess with my green screen. I'm trying to do X and Y and Z. And as a coach, my job is to figure out like what is right in front of us right now that we could put out there as soon as possible. And the nature of content is, it's not enough to just make the one perfect video once. you have to be somebody who's out there consistently doing it, you know? And any content creator will tell you the video that you worked the hardest on is usually not the video that does the best. Your audience is going to disagree with you about what quality is. And when you're working with a coach, when you work with somebody who does this frequently, like at least you can have some insight as to why something doesn't perform. You know, I remember we made a video together that was very funny and it didn't get as much engagement. And I was able to look at it and say, oh, the first 6 seconds of the video went by and we didn't see either of our faces.
Right.
You know, and that doesn't mean that the content of the video was bad. That just means that we didn't do enough of a good job optimizing it to stop the scroll within the first 3 seconds, you know? Right. But if you're sitting at home trying to figure this out alone, it can be very demoralizing. You know, people will work very hard on something that is often very intelligent, very clever, very creative, very well made, and it bombs. And they see somebody out there post a selfie or something very simple that gets this huge engagement. And it almost feels like it's unfair. And I guess the unpleasant answer is it is unfair, you know? But that doesn't mean you can't win. That doesn't mean you can't win. You can still go out there and find your vehicle. And none of this stuff just clicks immediately, you know? So speaking of which, we're going to talk about scripting and some of the production stuff in a minute. But this is my show. And Robert, you're here. Do you mind if we do a little gimme for the audience?
Never thought you'd ask, Chris.
Okay, great. So everybody, if you want to know, there is a segment we do on this show frequently, and it's to dispel a very pervasive misconception that people have about the website LinkedIn. So there's a school of thought that says you're not supposed to sell yourself. You're not supposed to promote yourself on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is only for selflessly building friendships. And we actually know that the purpose of LinkedIn is self-promotion. It was designed as a place where people could get jobs, get hired, promote their brands. So every once in a while, I like to pop into character, and my guest and I like to ask my audience for exactly what it is we want. So, Robert, you ready to do Gimme Gimme?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Me first or you?
Boss Bogue here for another episode of Gimme Gimme, the part of the show where I ask you for money. If you haven't noticed, we're out here having the time of our lives. Our stars are rising, but you're not out there at home making short-form video content. You're holding yourself back, and it's time you get with the future. So, Robert, or the mayor, Mr. Mayor, I see you have a different name now. Mr. Mayor,
right.
This is your chance. My audience is here. It's up to you to ask them for whatever you want.
I need your vote. On September 6th at Inbound, I'm running for re-election. This is my official announcement for my re-election campaign for mayor of Inbound. It would mean the world to me if you'd vote for me on September 6th or digitally or anytime. It's not even a real office. I need your endorsement video, a 5-second clip. Go ahead and practice right now. 5-second clip of you saying, my name is whatever your name is, and I hereby endorse Robert Jones for the mayor of Inbound 2023. Pretty easy request. Thank you in advance. Bogue, your turn.
Yeah, watch how easy it is. It's me, Boss Bogue. I'm voting for the mayor of Inbound at Inbound 2023 because he's funnier than everybody else on LinkedIn. And what the hell is wrong with you people? It's a very simple thing he's asking for. And by the way, another simple thing you can do is bring me in as a coach. All right? You see me out there getting the laughs. You see me out there coaching superstars like Robert how to launch his brand into oblivion. This guy is dwarfing me now. His star is rising. And you got to ask yourself, why not you? All right? I have affordable training packages. I have short 90-minute packages that you could do for a one-off consultation. I do monthly and weekly packages out there depending on your level of commitment. And there's all sorts of ways that you can follow me. So first off, you'll see up here on the screen, where's the set? Yeah, we got a little sign up here. Next week, Don't miss my interview with Tim Davidson. He's coming on. We're going to break LinkedIn with our crazy stunts. So you can check that out. And if you don't like coaching with people, if you're weird about having to actually meet with people, you don't want to give your time to me, I've got great news for you. I have a digital course that you can buy called The Complete Guide to Selling on Video. The advice you're getting out there about video prospecting on LinkedIn is garbage. Absolute garbage, folks. They are training you to do cringy things, to write your name on whiteboards, to do all sorts of things that make you look like a scrub. I have a guide here. You can purchase it at home. It's called The Complete Guide to Selling on Video. It is everything you need for short, effective, professional videos. The course has comedic moments in there, but I am not teaching you to do comedy for video prospecting. I'm teaching you to go out there with a short, simple message that helps you get results. And we're going to watch an advertisement about that in just a moment. Robert, before we do you have anything else you want to ask my audience for?
No, I already asked, and one ask is enough. It's very simple. Vote for me for an office that doesn't even exist at Inbound this year, September 6th. Don't forget the video. Hi, my name is Rob Jones, supporter, and I'm officially endorsing him for mayor of Inbound. Thanks.
Yeah, use your real name. But yeah, that's great. So thanks, everybody. This has been Gimme Gimme. We'll be right back in a moment. Iggy, roll the tape. Hey there, it's me, Dr. Funkenstein. There's a lot of yahoos on LinkedIn giving sales advice, so it's time to talk about the facts about video prospecting. My team pays for a Vidyard Pro license, but I only make 1 or 2 videos a month. Is that good? Great question. The answer is no. That's actually pretty fucking bad if you think about it. In the scientific industry, which again, I am not from, we call that pissing money down the drain. I recommend implementing a simple process to create video regularly and sticking to it. That sounds awfully hard. I think we'll just mess around with it for a few months and hope everything works out. Is that a good plan? You're asking all the right questions. The answer is no. Sticking around with no process is not an effective strategy for video prospecting. But my buyers already receive videos all the time. No one's gonna wanna watch old me on video, right? This is a common misconception. A study conducted by Chris Bogue Communications reveals that most sales teams are sending out 0 videos a month, which means even the most incompetent sales reps can get noticed with just the slightest bit of effort. Wow, I think I'm starting to get the hang of this video thing. No, you actually don't understand it yet. That requires time and learning, and I recommend purchasing Chris Bogue's Complete Guide to Selling on Video, the ultimate guide to incorporating short, strategic video into all stages of your sales pipeline. I feel like a big doofus whenever I have to write on a whiteboard, but I'll do it if you think that's the right thing, Dr. Funkenstein. No worries. Our research shows that the whiteboard thing is cringe and has been since at least 2021. The Complete Guide to Selling on Video will train you to speak in a more natural, conversational style to engage with your prospects. Plus, tips for LinkedIn audience growth. Wow, Chris Bogue's Complete Guide to Selling on Video must cost a fortune. Wrong again, my friend. The Complete Guide to Selling on Video retails for just $250 American dollars. One problem, Dr. Funkenstein. I'm cheap and broke, so that still feels like a lot of money to me. You're in luck, because for a limited time only, the Complete Guide to Selling on Video is available for just $99 when you use the promo code SALES at chrisbogue.io. Get it today. It's the funnest, most useful guide to sales you'll ever buy. Or my name's not Dr. Funkenstein.
Dr. Funkenstein is not a doctor, nor does he claim to be a doctor. Statements made by Dr. Funkenstein are of his own opinion and do not reflect the opinions of Chris Bogue or Chris Bogue Communications LLC. Talk to your head of sales enablement to learn if video prospecting is right for you. Side effects include confidence on camera, increased pipeline velocity, and mild bouts of laughter. If you took offense to the whiteboard joke, please contact Dr. Funkenstein directly to learn about joining our newsletter.
Holy crap, that's so good. I forget how good of a character Dr. Funkenstein is. It's so good.
Thanks, man. Yeah, Dr. Funkenstein, again, it looks like a lot, but it's just me in front of a green screen wearing a lab coat. And again, it's like I never know exactly where that's going to go when I start scripting it, but it's just a game, right? I'm kind of playing on the fact that like the people giving advice on LinkedIn are not experts.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, the joke is he's dressed like a doctor. He talks like a doctor. He gives advice like he's doctor, but he's not a doctor. And he's going to constantly remind you that he's not a doctor. And again, I could go out there and explain the benefits of my course, but it's a lot more memorable to go out there and do it as Dr. Funkenstein. you know. Thanks to everybody who is throwing some love into the comments there. We do this like we're always trying to think about the audience and how we can make this something that's going to be enjoyable for people. And I want to talk a little bit to you about scripting. So one thing the audience might not know about me, I spend a lot of time talking about improv and how to be improvisational. I don't think people realize how tightly scripted everything I do is.
Right.
I was following a script for that sketch you just saw. I scripted the Rev Partners announcements that I did. Even the show you're watching right now is scripted, and I have an outline that I'm following. So, Robert, can you tell me a little bit about what life was like before you started scripting, and what effect did it have on your content once you started scripting things out more?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at your script for this show right now. It's fantastic. Even the font and the text and the way that it's presented helps kind of guide the thoughts, and it gives a space in which creative ideas can originate from. It's like I said this to you the other day, a creative enablement tool, right? So being able to script it and see, you can gain a lot of information from that. How long it's going to take if you do this enough times, if it's 2 page, all that sort of stuff you can get from scripting. It also helps you preview the ideas, right? Sometimes I do stuff just to see what it's like, but there's always a text document of some sort. I actually use giant Post-it notes. That's a cool thing that my wife found. But this script, I print it off sometimes. It's if you're not doing that scripting, then you have to have a really good reason not to. For example, you just want to capture. I've recorded myself on audio and video for 20 minutes just ideating. That's not going to be published. It's just for me to hear myself think, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, the scripts, I would almost, make one of those, a snippet of one available, because you have even places, I don't think it's on this one, but you have the places for B-roll footage to be shown. And so it gives you, it also lets you know like how much more production has to go into something, right? It's like you're about to just trump me with how your explanation of these, but for me, seeing that from you for the first time, I think it was for the Halloween episode, was like, why the hell am I not doing this? This is such a great way to capture ideas, to edit them real time, to preview kind of the thought process, the length of the video. I mean, it's fantastic. I 100% recommend that. So Bogue, thanks. You're the one that kind of got me into doing that for my own videos.
Thank you. Yeah. And, I don't know if anybody can like read this here, but I've always got like a paper copy. Where is this at? I've got a paper copy. One thing I learned as a comedy director was you're always going to get the best read out of people on a paper script. If you're reading it from a paper script, it's better than reading it from your phone. And again, it's like people get afraid of the scripting because they don't want to sound wooden. But I teach people to write in bullet points.
Yep.
And the bullet points allow you to improvise. They allow you to deviate slightly from a script without rambling. They allow you to stay on message. And again, one thing that I don't think people realize about my scripts, you saw Robert's Halloween sketch that we did earlier today. One thing that I was trained at Second City to do was, no matter how scripted your show is, you should always write little moments into it where the actors can do whatever they want. And that was the thing I really loved doing for my stage shows. I would make sure every actor in the show had at least one moment where I would tell them, look, you're going to open the door here and you're going to be surprised and angry. And if you want to read the line on the sheet, go ahead and read it. But also you have permission to say whatever you want. As long as you're angry and surprised, go nuts. You have 100% freedom to say whatever you want.
Right.
And I found that these little moments of freedom, like not only would the actor love it, but it would keep the rest of the ensemble on their toes because they never knew what that person was going to say when they came through. And then it would become this game where like the actor's trying to make the rest of the ensemble laugh. They're trying to hold it together, but they don't know what's going to come out. And yeah, Jared Mason here. Jared was somebody who's been in sketch shows with me. But I do this in my show too. I do these crossover events where I have different guests from a variety of different backgrounds. I write a video that we're going to be in together. It's always a very simple script that they're following, just delivering straight into their phone. but I always have a section at the end that says, improvise as many lines as you want here, and maybe they'll make it into the episode.
Mine did not. Whenever I did it, but you used something that was from somewhere else that was super powerful. Can I add one thing that for me, again, you've been doing this for a long time, and one of the things for getting on video, I saw something earlier where for every, and again, this is probably not an accurate statistic, but it is important. For every one creator, there are 10,000 consumers that don't post or anything. You might have bias. It's a cognitive bias. You might have bias that just because you saw videos in a row that everybody's doing it, they're not. So like just doing anything on video, you're going to stand out. The other part of that on scripting is that, you mentioned the ensemble and it gives people, you got to stay on your toes. Well, for me, I'm the ensemble most of the time, right? Chris and I are doing something, but it helps me for the bullet points, have a framework to operate within. Like I said, it also, and Chris, I've seen some of these in our script, but if you have like one good nugget or one great quote, that can be scripted. Now, the other stuff like transitions and like improvise here, I do the same thing with mine. It's bullet points. It's like a roadmap to get to the end. Is the show going to have a start, a middle, and a finish? The scripting helps with that. But if I've got like a zinger, or if I've got something that I think is really good, that entire quote will be in there, but not the entire thing. Scripted is almost, you almost deduce that everything has to be word for word or verbatim. But you can think of it or call it a framework if you prefer that.
Yeah, and one thing that I taught when I was coaching Robert, and like I want to dig into a little deeper on like this aspect of like having to be your own creative ensemble, because I'm sure there are people who are listening to this episode who do not have a team of editors, a team of fellow content creators to work with. Most companies do not prioritize creative content. They just want you to pop out something that's generic and simple and mindless, and putting stuff out there is more important than making sure it's good. Whereas I learned that like if you want to create video content, particularly if you want to create creative, often comedic video content, you need to film your lines like a professional actor does. And one thing that I worked with Robert on that was very helpful to me is,
I know what's coming up.
Yeah, if you've got comedic lines, you film on one piece of tape, and each line, try it 3 different ways. I learned this as a boss. Like if I'm playing Boss Bogue, and the line is, Robert, get into my office right now. I'll try, Robert, get into my office right now. And then I'll try like a quiet one being like, Robert, get into my office right now. And I'll try like an offhand one, be like, Robert, get the hell into my office right now. And then when I'm editing, I actually sit there and I compare the 3 versions of me against each other. Like, what was the most natural? What was the funniest? What do I think fits the rhythm of the scene the best? And yeah, just this little difference in filming and thinking of yourself as someone who can provide different energies. This is something that helps me make my content more dynamic. And yeah, Robert, can you share a little bit about what it was like getting that note and how, if at all, it's changed your process of creating footage?
Never even considered that until you pointed it out during our game review. So 2 things that I hate, negative feedback and watching myself, but it was useful. I actually use that in the video that I'm supposed to put out today. You can please add feedback to this tape, because again, part of my superpower is ignorance, right? Speed, and like I have a wit about me, but I can just get stuff out there. Part of the personal brand is that there's not a bunch of red tape or permissioning to go through. So I use good judgment on what, which lines to flirt with, but I could get that out there. For me, it's if there isn't like a character with an emotionally like Boss Bogue is, personified of being a boss. Other times it's not as clear or indicative like what the emotional feel for that scene or that portion should be like. And so, you told me, try it happy, try it sad, create some emotional context and dynamics on the scene. It's all just, it can't be high energy all the time. And again, ignorance here. And I know that Jared probably knows this. Anybody that's done improv is aware of this, but I wasn't sure when I'm doing, skits or bits that involve me playing a different character and myself, that there's got to be like the straight man and like the funny guy, right? Like you've mentioned that. So I was missing a lot of that. you'd be proud of me. I just used that actually this morning and yesterday while I was filming. It was like that. I don't know. Let me try it really sad. Let me try it moved. Let me try it, from a motivational point of view. So super helpful. 100%. If you're going to do that, then it needs to be at least considered the emotional dynamics of what you're putting out there.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because the more I do comedy, the more I learn that it's all about two opposing forces. Like that is what's funny. You think Laurel and Hardy and Abbott and Costello, all those old timey like vaudeville kind of comedians. Yeah, you had the really straight laced guy, and then you had the really silly character up there, and the audience is not only laughing at the funny things the silly person is saying, but they're laughing because they identify with the frustration of that really straight laced character. And even in the Shrek video that you showed us, there are two competing ideas there. There's you as the donkey, and then there's Matt as Shrek, and you even think about their dynamic in the movie, Donkey is the comic relief. Like that doesn't mean Shrek never says anything funny, but the reason why Shrek is funny is because he's grumpy. He's an ogre who's not fun. And, Donkey has all the personality, and he's a lot friendlier. He's sweeter. His feelings are more easily hurt. And, I always tell people there's more to life than just, extreme joy and extreme sadness, and oftentimes on LinkedIn, especially, we fall into this trap. We're either, we're announcing this opportunity, this new job we got. No, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened. Or, we've got to be like, sellers, don't send cold emails like this. This is going to, and it's like either the greatest thing on earth or the worst thing on earth, where I'm like, you can take a moment to be surprised.
Right.
You could take a moment to be curious. You could take a moment to be sentimental. You could take a moment to be hopeful. There's a million different subtle like emotions you can have out there. And oftentimes the audience is laughing because you've given them something that is both real, but also unexpected. And I think that's what a lot of B2B is missing here. And a lot of what I try to do as a coach, where oftentimes I don't think people realize the gold that they have, and you keep talking about speed, which seems to be, a recurring theme here. And anybody who is in B2B, anybody who's in tech sales know speed is crucial. You have to be able to turn your thoughts into action and just get them out and keep moving. And yeah, that's what I try to bring as a coach is like people have 20 different ideas in their head. They don't know necessarily which one is best to go with. And oftentimes I'm saying, oh yeah, that thing you just said, that would be very compelling. What do we need to do to get that out before Saturday?
Yeah.
And sometimes that would end with me literally scripting it in the moment. And I would send to the creator I was working with and say, okay, there is a draft in your drafts folder right now, written in bullet points of the things you just said. Go make it your own, go customize it, go make it you. But yeah, we've got it there. It's short, it's a minute long. Go out there and do it. And a little bit of direction goes a long way. So we're closing up here in the next couple minutes. If anybody has any final questions for me and Robert, please throw them in the comments now. And Robert, yeah, I don't want to get all sappy on you here, but I am very grateful that I got the chance to work with you and your talents, and also the creator cohort team at Rev Partners. We didn't really get a lot into what everybody else was doing, but there was, shows about time management. One of your creators, Alejandra, has a successful YouTube series that's in Spanish. It's HubSpot instructions in Spanish, which has also been bringing deals in there. We've got, again, shows about time management, about living with ADHD, all sorts of different interesting aspects of like what it's like to work in 2023. So I was honored to have worked with you. I was honored I'm still honored every day I go out there and I see you doing amazing new things. I see your star rising. You've gotten new job titles, new job responsibilities. You're doing in-person events. Like nothing makes me happier than to watch you soar and watch you really own your own talents. So yeah.
I think the most important thing too, and I appreciate that, but like I can feel that coming from you. Like it's no coincidence that like we had the 90-day thing and now we're still doing something together because of the time we had. Like it feels we were like, you're this influencer and comedic coach and sales training coach on video, all of this stuff. And I was like following you. And then it was like, oh, you're coaching us. And now it feels more like we're friends, but it's your passion for making other people enabled and like launching them is fantastic. And so for me, like now with the cohort, I get to see Alex and Mariah and Rodrigo and Shadab and Pete and Will and all the guys and girls from our team kind of start into that foray and me being able to be there and say, instead of my tone is always more comedic, it's just whatever. So instead of like, don't worry, we'll get them next time. It's like, I sucked for a year. Like you can put one video out there that doesn't, get 500 likes. It's fine. I've already done it. But being able to point the spotlight, if you will, back to them and say, go forth, put yourself out there, have a voice, be known. And then if you fail, it's encouraged. We're encouraging you to fail because you're not going to get better without failing a lot to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the last thing I'll say, we talked a lot about comedy today just because it's very important to Robert's brand. It's very important to my brand. It is something I have done for over 15 years at, I'd like to think, a rather high level. So I talk about it because I am actually one of the few people on LinkedIn who is like able to coach comedic writing and comedic performance. But I don't coach everybody to be a comedian. I coach with the natural talents of whoever the creator is. So I would have been a fool to coach Robert Jones and not to encourage him to push the envelope with comedy. That is what is natural to you. That is an obvious skill that you have. But again, Rev Partners is doing a lot of interesting things, and it's not because they're all trying to be Robert. It's because they're going out there as their own perspective. Will is an example. Will, he's got a show about time management. That is what he's passionate about. And is it funny sometimes? Yes. But really, it's just him sharing what's valuable to him. And same thing with Alex and, Letters to Alex, her program. She's been doing HubSpot work for 7 years. And this is really just trying to give her audience the best information that she can. So if at home you want to start doing this, if you're not ready to reach out and have a coach start doing it, just start talking to the camera about what you know. And yeah, you could definitely call us. And you can even just show up next week. So once again, next week's show, it's happening on Thursday at our usual time. Tim Davidson is coming by. It's called Show Up Uninvited. It is all about how to get noticed in marketing by showing up in places where people don't expect you. Spoiler alert, we're going to be showing up in some unexpected places on LinkedIn next week that you're not going to see coming. And yeah, go ahead and scan the QR code if you want to check that out. The complete guide to selling on video is here. This is my course. You can scan the barcode if you want to do that. Use promo code SALES if you want to get it for $99. And if you want to check out my coaching offerings, if you're interested in individual coaching or coaching for your team, go ahead and DM me on LinkedIn or shoot me a message at chris@chrisbogue.com. And Robert, one more time, if they want to find you or follow your content, where can my audience go to find more from Robert Jones and Rev Partners?
Yeah, I am on TikTok at Robert Jones RP. I'm at LinkedIn, Robert Jones. Actually, mayorofInbound.com is a site. We're redirecting it right now. If you're a HubSpot rep, you need help with a deal, mayorofInbound.com will take you to there. By the way, quick plug for Tim Davidson. If you're like me and didn't know who that was, it's the fruit guy. He does the fruit and vegetable.
Always chopping
cutting.
fruit.
So as soon as I saw that, I was like, holy crap, I'm excited for this guy because it's fantastic. It's just there's such a dynamic between him being serious and that being absurd. It creates a lot of value. Maybe that's what I kind of have tapped into, but the dynamics of his messaging and what he is doing on camera make it very, fun to watch for me. So it's good content to engage with.
Oh yeah, we've got some surprises next week. So thank you very much, everybody. I'll throw this up here just because friend of the show, Chris Van Prague, one of my first guests on the show, hilarious guy. Follow Chris. He's another person who is doing just stuff other people are not doing with comedy on LinkedIn. So thanks a lot, everybody. This has been Comedy School. Robert, say bye, everybody.
Bye for now, not for never. I fully expect an endorsement video from Vidyard Bomb wherever looms. Send it to me. You can DM me. See you at the polls September 6th at Inbound.